Okay, shalom. Right, it's been quite a while since I've done a real teaching, and today I'm just going to go over some things that I think are important. I've been working on this whole concept of Metatron, but I just wanted to show why I haven't been putting things out quite so quickly, because I've literally been going through all these major concepts in order to build up a picture of Metatron, exactly what it is, what we're dealing with. I'm after doing all the research, I'm a little bit reluctant now to use the word Metatron, because it's actually not found in the Torah, or it's very much indicated in the Torah. The word that would be Torah based to describe this concept is the angel of YHVH. Okay, so really, when I'm doing this, I'm going to use the word Metatron, but I don't want you to get confused with all this new age spiritual garbage, angel kind of talk that you hear on the internet, and I have listened to some, and they have absolutely no idea what or who Metatron is. It's a vast concept, as is everything that is actually rooted in the written Torah. Vast and wonderful and very difficult to get to the end to it, as I found out. So I began doing Metatron way back when, and then I've come up, I've explored all these major concepts. We've been looking at the Aleph, glorious stuff, and then even the Tree of Knowledge, because obviously Metatron goes back to there. He's associated with the whole concept of the Tree of the Knowledge in the Mishnah, and then obviously Masters of Wheat. This is a term given to Masters of the Mishnah, and Masters of the Oral Torah. So looking at that, Joshua ben Nun figures very highly because he is the youth, and Metatron's known as the youth. The Tree of the Knowledge, what tree was it? Very important to try and establish what the Talmud says regarding what the Tree of Knowledge is, and actually what reality points out, what the Torah indicates that the Tree of Knowledge is. The Torah indicates it confirms really what the rabbis say. So it's all very interesting. The numbers behind it reveal a lot. So I've been going into that, having a look at Ruth, that whole concept of fear not, because it's exactly the same as fear not my servant Yaakov, and that's supposedly what the sages say. Fear not my servant Yaakov. That is supposedly what the Yaakov these words are for Yaakov to help him defeat the angel of death, which is the angel of Esau, his brother. Right, Asaph and the king's virgin daughters, very interesting stuff. Right, Zohar, obviously to look at Metatron, to find out anything about Metatron, you've got to look at the Zohar, because that's really where it's written. And then in other documents like the Enoch books, I ended up having a look at Melchizedek, sun, moon, male, female, father, mother. Really, because there's a lot. I did that really because there's a lot of this Enoch calendar. Metatron is Enoch. Enoch was transformed into Metatron, so Metatron's one of the only two angels that apparently have actually been human. Okay, so let's get rid of them. Right, so, and I have got friends that have succumbed to this delusion of the Enoch calendar. So anyway, I've gone from a Torah point of view, what Torah says regarding the calendar and how we are to follow it. And it's beautiful teachings. So Melchizedek, looking at all Melchizedek's words, because we're told to. That was quite a big one. Back to Kodesh. All linking it into Jerome's commentary regarding 153 fish, Joshua ben Nun again, all kinds of stuff, and then all kinds of stuff. Aviv, so counting of the months again, coming against this Enoch calendar. How in the Torah we're supposed to count the months. Emmanuel, despise evil and choose good. God with us is Emmanuel. That's the prophecy regarding that. King's daughters in the coat of many colours. Very, very, very wonderful teaching caught up in that. All to do with concept of Metatron. The Zohar, 3 conceal the name, YHVH, Kodesh moon. So I've been going through a lot. I mean a lot. You can see Zohar, Metatron, a lot, but a lot's come out. Or what Arizal has said, they're very, 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 very interesting stuff from Arizal's perspective on Metatron. Joshua ben Nun again, cherubim, the two cherubim, because Metatron's one of the cherubim. Metatron's a vast concept. It's literally, I'd rather use the word the angel of God, but he's termed Metatron for a very good reason. I think it's really it's termed Metatron in a way because the whole concept of the angel of God, that you're not to rebel against because my name is in him. He's so vast, it's very difficult to really comprehend. So then Metatron, Enoch walked with God and he was no longer. Probably going to go and have a look at some of those things. There's just some images, but in and amongst going down, seek out. Oh, this is another one. Zohar, seek out the book of YHVH. It's all glorious stuff. YHVH in and out. Revelation, Metatron walked with God, Enoch walked with God. Behold, I am sending before you. This is the angel, and he's the angel of the face. You have to look at some things from Proverbs, the spider that grasps with her hand. So there's massive amounts of, these are all commentaries from the Zohar that I've had to analyse to see and pick up, some key significant things. So I've been there 391 slides, all just on Enoch, lots of Enoch and Metatron. I did one brief teaching on it, and then I've thought to myself, let's get through this as thoroughly as I possibly can, and that's proven to be much harder than I ever imagined. Okay, so just wanted to let you know there is some great teachings on their way, bringing in a lot of concepts that I've come across before, but I just wanted to show you that. Now this is 674 slides, right? If we go up and have a look, this is just one PowerPoint. So all these numbers, this was the first PowerPoint that I ever started, 930. I had to do another PowerPoint because it was just too vast to really move and get a bigger processor for my computer. So 930 just on that one. Yeshua evidence in Torah, that's where it all began. Then it went to Amolos, so I had to obviously go over the concept of the anti-Moshiach. Okay, so that's 336 in that, and then I went to the weekly Torah new, and this has gone up to 817. Some of these slides are repeated because I just pull whole slides through. But you might recognise some of the teachings on there. Some of the if you're one of my regulars, you might look at and see some of these teachings that I've actually put on. I mean, I really have, for all the numbers that I've talked about, I've really, a vast just been having a look at this concept, Techiath HaMasim, the resurrection of the dead, honestly. So, and then this was the second to the last one I've done. There's 466 on there, so you probably recognise some of the teachings that I've done from that as well. Loads and loads of teachings in there. That produced lots of videos, but the videos that I produce are a tiny fraction of the actual analysis. Obviously, an analysis that I do might have a maximum of 4 slides or something like that. Usually it takes an hour to get through one chock-a-block full slide. So if I've got one slide like with 20 points on it, it'll usually take an hour to get through that just alone. So you can imagine I'm pulling together when I go over these concepts, the numbers that I actually choose. Sometimes I'm thinking, what do I add in? That's why I put so many numbers into the analysis, so that at least some of the cream of the analysis you're getting. But there's vast oceans of it that I can't possibly put to a video. It would just take my whole lifetime. But what I'm hoping to start to do is a newsletter. So I'm going to start including my email for Stands to Reason in the comments. I think it stands to reason 60@gmail.com. Email me so that I can keep in touch with you, and then hopefully if you have any questions or anything like that, or if I decide to put newsletters out where I share more of this information. I really want to start a website as well, so I've just got to get my daughter on board with that to help me put a website together. But you know, get in communication with me, and then I will try and endeavour to answer those emails and as soon as I can. Right, so that's what I've been doing for all these weeks. I think about 3 weeks since I last posted. I posted a small holy inspiration of a video, but let's go into this subject of Metatron. Like I say, I prefer to call it the angel of YHVH because that's ultimately what it is. It's the actual, the whole ruler of the world as well, you know. But the angel of the Lord, the angel of YHVH, I should say, there's two sides to Metatron. There's the rod of Moshiach and the serpent. So this is why the ruler of the world can have two kind of faces, if you like. You know, the face that's good, you know, and a not so nice side to it. Obviously, he's running the world, and we can see this world at this time is run on the principles of good and evil, because we've been permitted to have free choice, and man often chooses evil, so there's a consequence of that. So the angel of the Lord, really, or the angel of YHVH, is this whole system by which we have been given free will in order to rectify ourselves, in order to go through these 6,000 years. These 6,000 years, by the way, is that entire system called the angel of the Lord, called Metatron. So the 6 supernal days are Metatron, are the angel of the Lord. So this whole process that we're caught up in, this is what I mean by how vast it is. It includes everything, including you know, connected to what we're doing in order to reveal the truth regarding Moshiach and regarding the whole system. It's complicated. I need to go and break it down. I've learnt a lot, like I say, and everything that's written is nothing compared to what the Torah reveals about this, and connecting it up to all these very, very, very important things that bring us into true faith. And through that true faith in YHVH, we create the vessels that the vessels of unity between body and soul, Yisrael and the nations, Esav and Yaakov, that is needed in order to reveal, in order for YHVH to reveal to us that it desires to reveal that there's only him and nothing else. Okay, so we need to know this whole system that has been governing the show to bring us that place where that oneness is ultimately revealed, and this is the concept of Metatron. Okay, so let's just go and have a look at some of the numbers that are really, really wonderful. Okay, so like I've said, Metatron being the angel of YHVH, that's how I think it's the best way to understand it, so that we don't get caught up in new age ways of thinking. Okay, so I will use the word Metatron, but keep deferring back to these big concepts. We're going to have a look at some of the things that Metatron, according to the Zohar, is, and you'll start to understand how vast this concept is and why it's taken me a long time to pull together some teachings that I think are absolutely phenomenal. Right, so first point, Metatron is the angel of YHVH that's mentioned in the Torah. Okay, Metatron is second in charge of God, YHVH, running the operations of creation, feeding the animals, causing rain, etc. So all the things that YHVH does, but he's left this task in Metatron's charge, or the angel of the Lord's charge. And I've just put there, like a king who leaves the running of the kingdom in the most trusted servant's care. So this is obviously a very, very powerful trusted servant, an angel, force of light. Okay. Metatron was Enoch, so he was once a human but was transformed. He was not. So it says, it mentions the phrase was not in the Torah. So it means he's not human any longer. Okay, but he obviously has got a human origin originally. Metatron is the archangel over the soul of Moshiach ben Yosef, which is Yeshua, whilst he has descended into exile. So Moshiach Yeshua is in exile suffering with us, as is Moshe in exile suffering with us. So Metatron, whilst the angel, whilst the Moshiach is suffering with us in exile, Metatron's in charge. Okay, and this whole process of rectification that we're going through is connected to Metatron in some way. He is one of the cherubs of the Ark of the Covenant. He is also the cherubs that block the way to the Tree of Life. It mentions at one point, we'll get to this in some of the teachings, I hope, that Yod-Heh-Vav is now riding on one cherub. It's mentioned this in Psalms. He used to ride on two, and now he rides on one cherub. The one cherub he rides on is Metatron. Okay, so very powerful force. Metatron is referred to as the lesser Yod-Heh-Vav because most people, when they are experiencing God, are experiencing Metatron. He's also known as the voice of God. So like I say, the king has put his most trusted servant in charge, whilst the king has allowed his son, Yeshua, to descend into this exile and suffer with us. The chief angel in control, as far as I can discern from the Torah, and these other sources that point us back to the Torah, is that Metatron is in control. However, most of our interaction with what we perceive as the divine or the ruler, or even Yod-Heh-Vav, most of our interaction is not with Yod-Heh-Vav himself. It's with his angel Metatron. It's with the angel of Yod-Heh-Vav. Okay, so when we feel like God has spoken to us, the chances are that force that's spoken to us is Metatron, that has spoken to us on behalf of the king Yod-Heh-Vav, but not the king himself. Okay, and most of the spiritual experiences that we probably experience at this time in exile, where we feel the presence of Yod-Heh-Vav in our lives, most of that will be the angel Metatron, the angel of Yod-Heh-Vav, that is serving, the chief servant of Yod-Heh-Vav. Okay. Metatron is connected to the concept of the interpreter in Yosef's household. So there's an interpreter between the tribes, the brothers of Yosef and himself, before that ultimate revelation, and the concept of Metatron is related to the concept of the interpreter, the Hamelites, I think it is, that was acting as a go-between between the brothers and Yosef, because they did not know that he was Yosef, and they did not know that he was speaking Hebrew. He could understand Hebrew, so there was this interpreter. That interpreter is Metatron. It indicates that through analysis. Okay, Metatron is the revealer of secrets. So secrets are the hidden aspects of the Torah. The hidden secret of the Torah is Moshiach ben Yosef. So obviously Metatron is a revealer of this secret. Okay, and that's one of his titles, revealer of secrets. Metatron is the heavenly scribe. Okay, that's another title given to Metatron. Metatron is the ruler and prince of the world. Okay, so Sar ha-olam. He is not Adon Olam, master of the universe, because that is Yod-Heh-Vav himself, but he is Sar ha-olam, prince of the world. Okay, so and we look at the world, how it's ruled at this time, and like I say, there's good aspects to that and there's not so good aspects to that, and that depends on the actions of man, whether he does good or whether he does evil, and Metatron runs it according to the actions of man at this time. But there is a hidden system in operation that we don't see. That hidden system is connected to Moshiach ben Yosef, who's suffering in exile with us, and this hidden system is connected to the absolute sovereignty and authority of Yod-Heh-Vav, and very soon that hidden system will become revealed. But until then, we have got this other system that looks like it's running the show, called Metatron, called the Prince of the World, Sar ha-olam. It looks like it's been running a certain way, but hidden, this is the little cog that turns the big cog. Okay, so sorry, this is the little cog. It doesn't turn the big cog. The big cog's turning this little cog. But this is the reality of the world in which we live in, that we are most aware of, that is most revealed to us. Okay, and this system and all the functions of the world that we are able to perceive at this time that are revealed to us are associated with Metatron, and he's running it on a reward and merit and guilt basis, reward and punishment basis. But the hidden system, very much related to the soul of Moshiach ben Yosef, is very much related to just at the absolute sovereignty of YHVH to bestow upon us is kindness. Okay, and that's the system that ultimately will kick in once we've gone through these 6,000 years of rectification under this present system. Okay, and Metatron has been ruling the world for a long time. Maybe he had to get out of the way when Yeshua was in the world incarnate, but maybe only for that short time. He represents the 6 days of creation also. So the 6 days of creation, the 6 days that represent the 6,000 years of rectification that we're going through until we are restored and perfected to receive what YHVH desires to receive. Okay, so he's Prince of the world. He's running the show. Metatron is the angel of the face, literally faces. So that's just one of his titles. Very interesting things. Obviously, this is mentioned in the Torah, and there's reference to it. There's also a really nice connection, the concept of the gate of the faces. It's what's called the corner gate. Okay, so that's very much related to the concept of Metatron. There's only one letter difference between the corner gate and the angel of the face. Or Sar, it's actually again Prince, Sar Hapanim and Sha'ar Hapanim. So Prince of the gate, Prince of the faces, and Sha'ar Hapanim, I think it is. There's only one difference, and that's the letter Ayin, which is missing from Yeshua's name. So there's connections there. There's all kinds of wonderful stuff. We're going to get to it in these teachings, but not all today, obviously. Metatron has a heavenly yeshiva, second under the yeshiva of the Holy One, blessed be He. So basically, these are two divine realms that we can enter, divine realms of consciousness that we can enter. One of the highest yeshivas of all that we can enter is yeshiva of Metatron. Okay, so this is a very, very high exalted holy yeshiva, second only under the yeshiva of the name YHVH himself, the Holy One, blessed be He. So that's how it's referred to in the Zohar. Obviously, we obviously there's some truth. When it mentions the angel of YHVH in the Torah, it says, and obey him, do not rebel against him, obey him, because in him is my name. So that's what we're really trying to determine, aren't we? We're trying to really find the name YHVH as revealed through this whole system called Metatron, this whole 6 days of creation. We want to find the truth that's hidden in all this, that appears sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not so good. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We've got to discern the name YHVH out of this very complex scenario that we've been placed called exile, where the forces at work within us are predisposed to us interpreting things in an evil way, in an incorrect way, in an illusion, through illusion and fantasy and fiction and lies, sheker, and doubts. And we've got to try and overcome all those forces to actually find the name of YHVH within this entire exile into which we've been placed. Okay, so there's obviously we want to learn about the way this creation works in order to be able to draw close to the name that's revealed, the name of YHVH that's revealed in that. But ultimately there is a higher yeshiva, which is, just everything is all about the name YHVH. And it's the difference between the first set of tablets and the second set of tablets. The first set of tablets that were broken, but they are still put in the Ark of the Covenant. you know, these are just a pure revelation of the name YHVH. This is what would have come from the yeshiva of the Holy One, blessed be He. But for some reason, you know, we did the sin of the golden calf, and we didn't merit to receive them, though, that first Torah, and they were smashed but kept. And then we got the second set of Torah, which is obviously not as pure and as holy and as direct as the first set that we received. Okay, because we had the sin of the golden calf, so there was another 40-day period where Moshiach had to go back up into heaven and receive the second set of Lukoth, but there was not as holy and pure as the first set. However, the first set is very much related to just a pure revelation of all the holy names of YHVH. It's just YHVH, nothing else beside him. Whereas we've got good and bad, haven't we? We've got YHVH, but it's YHVH hidden in amongst, you know, some things that conceal his name. So the written Torah that we've got, it's both revelation of the name YHVH and concealment of the name YHVH. And this is all the system of Metatron, and it's related. I'm pretty sure it's related to the second set of Lukoth, which is likened, I suppose, to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And it's for us to discern, to reject the evil and to choose the good, to remember YHVH. Okay, and you know, anyway, it's complex. It's not. This is why it's taken me so long to get to understand this. Metatron as a wife, the Mishnah, second to the Torah, tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and we're in a situation now where the Mishnah, you know, it dominates over there's a Mishnah which is called the handmaid, dominates over the queen, and you've got, for example, and the Mishnah dominates over the written Torah, which is the queen, okay, which is really just a revelation of the name YHVH. But what we've got is the Mishnah, the wife of Metatron, our perception of reality and our perception even of YHVH at this time through, you know, through the dominant teachings that we've got, conceal and reveal the name YHVH. I don't think I've said that as quite as clearly as I would have wanted to, but you know, we've got this tree of the knowledge of good and evil mentality where we don't just perceive YHVH. Sometimes we're able to perceive YHVH peeping through the cracks of this exile, but most importantly to us at the time of exile is that we're perceiving the evil that is dominating at this time. And the Mishnah above the Torah is why Moshe is in exile, because the teachings of the oral Torah have been elevated to a place above the teachings of the written Torah, and this is exactly what happened in Yeshua's day. So the traditions of men have been elevated above the written Torah, and this is the handmaid that becomes the queen. Metatron is the slave that becomes the king. And the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is something that we've got to get to that stage where the true queen, the true written Torah is what is elevated above all, and the name YHVH is what is elevated above all, and certainly it's the king and not the servant instead of the king. And also the other situation is, this is based on Mishle, we will go to this at some point, you know, 3 things that you know, cause problems in the earth, and the last one is a fool that's sated with meat, and this is like the Erev Rav, or a fool that's sated with bread, but it's referring to the Erev Rav who were in charge. You know, the fools are in charge. The Erev Rav dominates over the children of Israel at this time, as is they did when they were the ones dominating the Bnei Yisrael when Moshe was away, because they were the ones that orchestrated the building of the golden calf. So there's loads and loads. What I'm saying is this is not a small subject. We're going to have to go into this heavenly yeshiva of Metatron to learn all about these various concepts, and hopefully from there we can then ascend into the final destination, the yeshiva of the Holy One, blessed be He, that's written down here. So I hope you can appreciate why I've taken really gone to town and really analysed all these key concepts. I've obviously had to look at the Zohar to give me some indication where they will look in the Torah, because it's not very clear, and I'm not intelligent enough to understand which parts of the Torah are relating to Metatron. I need to go and look in the Zohar to point me back to the right places. So what I want to know, what I want to explain is that I have, looked at some, not all, some of the key aspects of Metatron that's written about in the Torah, in Zohar, but then I've always gone and linked that into the actual Torah, because I think it's very important to root yourself within the written Torah, because obviously this is the Queen, and we don't want to put these other documents, we don't want to give them priority over the Queen. We want to get in the right order. So anyway, I've really enjoyed myself looking at all these wonderful stuff and all these wonderful concepts. My mind has been absolutely blown away. The gematria is unbelievable. It's so exciting. It's so revelationary. It's just wonderful. It just reveals the ultimately the whole teaching of Metatron is really there to bring us to that place where we really are able to see beyond this kind of mindset and illusion and exile that we've been subject to. Look beyond the system of Metatron, look through this lens of Metatron, if you like, to the glory of YHVH, who is above and beyond it. It's to peer through that ultimately to see just how magnificent YHVH is. So as glorious as Metatron is, and as wonderful as Metatron is, and we will all have had experience of him, whether we knew about it or not, or we've all had experience of the angel of the Lord. I'd much rather use the word the angel of the Lord, or the angel of YHVH, simply because I don't want to be associated with any Gnostic, New Age, spirituality, and this concept's been very much hijacked in the New Age scene and stuff like that, this concept of Metatron, and totally diminished. I mean, it's Metatron in my pocket, like everything else in exile. It's just this shrunken, constricted, it's nothingness compared to the true reality. When you root it back to the Torah, you all of a sudden you get this vast, glorious, it's never ending. You can't possibly get to the end of this concept because it's just part of YHVH. It's not his infiniteness, obviously it's part of creation, but it's just his utter vastness. It seems to be without end, and you can just dive in and in and in, and once you start to access the name YHVH through these concepts, then obviously it does get to the infinite, doesn't it? We can never ever fully understand the glory that is behind all these things, and really my desire is to make people think bigger, much more glorious, until the entire glory of YHVH fills the whole world as the waters cover the seas, kind of thing. So that's where I'm hoping to go to. I have seen through studying this Metatron more wonder than I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of wonder whilst I've done. I've showed you all the teachings that I've done. I've shown you the wonder that I've come across. So I hope that we can go on a journey together and go through some of these major concepts and really enjoy exploring this, because it will 100% lead us all the way back to a revelation of the name YHVH and his awesomeness and his absolute authority, and it will finally help us to click. All right, I get it now. This thing that we think is evil, that's got a force and a life of its own, is nothing but the servant of YHVH. Two sides to Metatron, apparently. I'm not going to go into too much details, because I only want to speak about things that I'm very, very clear upon. I'm clear upon these things because I've researched them. So there are other things, like obviously the side of Metatron that appears in this world as a serpent. It's quite tricky to be able to talk about those things and mention who he is. you know, so I'll leave that. I'll go look at the things that I'm much more confident about and then get back to that at some later date. Okay, so we're going to go through this teaching just to show how the concept of Metatron is related to loads of stuff, in fact. But from the perspective of him being the angel of YHVH. Okay, so Malach YHVH, angel of YHVH, comes to 117 plus 63, which together comes to 180. That is extremely significant because 180 is Yosef, 156 plus 24. Okay, so Yosef plus David rectified comes to 180, and it's also David Melech Yisrael Chai wa Kayam. David, King of Israel, is alive and enduring. Okay, and all other things as well. It's related to Yeshua. Spellings out of Yeshua comes to 180. 53, which is the spelling out ordinal of Yeshua, plus one of the spellings out, the first spelling out of Yeshua, the ordinal of that comes to 127. If you add them together, they come to also 180. So there's a lot involved with that, but there's so many numbers I can't keep going over it. The squared ordinal of Malach Adonai, so YHVH is 186, and then this one squared, it comes to 621. Okay, which is a very significant number because that is 3 times 207, and 207 is or light. Okay, so this angel is very much connected to a revelation of light. Right, so let's go and have a look at that number because this has got a lot to tell us. We don't understand what we don't understand is that this whole creation is set up. The light that is revealed to us is hidden. Okay, so it's hidden in darkness usually, and it's our job to transform that darkness from darkness into light, from chaos into shalom, from evil into good. So the light comes hidden, and we are in a process of transforming that hidden light, or revealing that hidden light. So, and the woman saw that the tree was good for food. This is referring to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That comes to 207, which is light. Okay. And so again, it's connected to this concept of the angel of light. And we know the angel of light, Metatron, is related to the tree, which is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay, the grave of Moses, our teacher, comes to 1,251. I'm only going to point out the numbers that I think are more significant at this time. So 1,251 is connected to, and the woman saw that the tree was good for food. Now, the reason why Moshiach is in the grave that is in and hidden, nobody knows where Moshiach is buried, is on account of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay, and it's on account of the fact that let me just try and read this properly. Well, it's on account of the error of Rav, isn't it? The ones that built the golden calf and the ones that rebelled, and one thing, he struck the rock with the staff or the rod, and somehow that rod, the rod of Moshiach, the rod of Elohim that was in Moshiach's hand, is very much connected to the concept of Metatron also. So it's all interconnected. The fact that Moshiach is in exile is connected to the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and this whole system that's connected to Metatron that's now put the angel of YHVH in control for a certain period of time. Okay, so it's all glorious and it's all wonderful. Right, let's see what else we've got. All right, okay, so this number here, the grave of Moshiach, our teacher, that comes to, you've got Moshiach filled to that, and then you've got Yeshua, and this is a spelling out of Yeshua and Moshiach. If you add them up together, you get 972. If you add on to that Moshiach again, and Moshe has got to come back, Moshiach has got to come back again, you get 1422. So it's related to that. This is also another very significant number. We can't go through all of them. Right, so you've got Metatron here. This is how we know that this is related to Metatron, because the square regular of Metatron, so each of these numbers squared according to the regular gematria and then added up comes to 44,298, which is 107 times 414, which is equal to 207 times 214, and all obviously 207 is related to these numbers, so that's 3 times 207, and that's 207, and like I say, it's light or. Okay, so then you've got this whole concept of you shall give truth to Yaakov. So we're in a process of trying to get the truth regarding that Yosef is still alive to Yaakov in order to empower Yaakov so that he can overwhelm the forces of evil and dominate over the evil. Okay, so some major numbers involved here. The 153, which is to do with the fact that both Moshe and Yeshua ascended into heaven and then descended into exile. Moshe in Erev Rav exile, Yeshua in Edomite exile. Okay, however, the regular and the ordinal gematria added together come to 1656, which is 8 times 207, 8 times light. Okay. So it was whenever the ark set out, Moshe would say, and then he would obviously say arise, and that word arise is associated, according to Vilna Gaon, in the book called Hator, to Moshiach ben Yosef, because as Yosef prophesied, my sheaf arose. So Vilna Gaon said that when you get the word arose or arise, it's to do with Moshiach ben Yosef. So the next word would be in this. So it was when the ark set out, Moshe would say arise. Okay, so this is 171 regular, 207, so we've got that linked back to here. Okay, but we've also got that linked to there because 1071 is 7 times 153. 1071 is also Moshiach ben Yosef, which is 566, plus Moshiach ben David rectified 434, that comes to 1000, plus Yonah, which is 71. Okay, so Yonah is the sign that Moshiach ben Yosef gave. Yeshua said, the only sign I'll give a wicked and adulterous generation is the sign of Yonah. So we've got a combination in that number of Moshiach ben David, Moshiach ben Yosef, and Yonah. Okay, they come to 7 times 153. That number comes up all the time in my teachings, all the time. It's to do with the fact that the Moshiach ascended into heaven, but then descended. Moshe went up into heaven to get the Torah on the stones, the stone tablets, but then when he had to descend on account of the Erev Rav making, the mixed multitude, the Erev Rav making the golden calf and influencing the Bnei Yisrael to pursue this folly. Okay, Yeshua ascended into heaven after he was crucified, and then he descended. Okay, into Edomite exile, into the exile of Rome. Okay, so we've got new month comes to these numbers. That's the regular, the ordinal, and together, which that is the exact same as Moshe. However, on a normal year, there's 12 months of the year. Okay, so 12 times 345, or 12 times Moshe, is 4,140, which is 207 times 20. So the whole concept of the new month, don't forget, the new month is the month is connected to, and the moon is connected to, revelation of Moshiach ben David. Okay, so, and we say those words, David Melech Israel, Chai Wakayam, when we sanctify the moon every month. Okay, so they're the words that are repeated because the moon symbolises the re-establishment of the kingdom of David on earth. Okay, you've got this. This is actually Eglaim. There's a missing ayin there. Let me just go change that. Okay, so that's now changed. Eglaim comes to 153, and this, according to Jerome's commentary regarding this number, 153. the part of the Tanakh where this word aglaim is written talks about the fishes caught in a net and many fishes. That particular verse where ein aglaim is mentioned, and ein aglaim, like the word ein, is spelled exactly the same as the letter ayin, and it means the well, the ein aglaim. That is connected again to the 153 fishes in the dragnet, which is connected to the concept of the Moshiach ascending into heaven and then descending into exile in order to suffer with us, in order to help us accomplish what needs to be accomplished in these 6,000 years, which are really connected to the 6 days of creation. They're connected to the concept of Metatron. It's all one concept, all wonderfully weaved together. So 153 is also the Moshe, the years of Moshe, 120 plus the years of Yeshua, 33. Add them together, 153. Okay, I go over that concept loads and loads in my teachings. 153. It's one of the messianic revelations to reveal the unity between the concept of the Moshiach, especially between Moshe and Yeshua. And that unity, therefore, brings about a revelation of Moshiach ben David. Okay? This is very interesting. A very interesting, in fact, it's so interesting, I'm going to go show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is Jerome's commentary. In his commentary on Ezekiel 47, Jerome linked the miracle of the 153 fish with the prophet's vision of a river of life flowing out from the temple in the Messianic era. According to Ezekiel's prophecy, the river will flow into the Dead Sea, turning the salt water fresh. The river that flows out of Eden, for example, is Metatron. That's another one of his appellations. He's the river that flowed out of Eden, that watered the Garden of Eden. Okay, and we're here now. And it will come about that fishermen will stand beside it from En Gedi to En Aglaim. There will be a place for the spreading of nets. Their fish will be according to their kinds, like the fish of the great sea, very many. That's from Ezekiel 47:10. Jerome believed that the miraculous represented the apostles bringing all nations into the kingdom. After all, the disciples were to be fishers of men, and this is from Matthew 13:47. The kingdom of heaven is like a dragnet cast into the sea and gathering fish of every kind. In that day their fish will be according to their kinds, very many. So that's linking it back. I got that off the First Fruits of Zion website. Okay, this is some of the stuff that I've had a look at. As we can see, it's from Ein Gedi to Ein Aglaim, comes to 550, and 550 is Moshiach ben David. It's also I will arise. I told you Kumati. I think there's Kumati then from Micah 7:8. The authority, as in the authority of the kingdom of David. Ha Misra, that's taken from Isaiah 9:16. And Tikkun, we're in a process of repairing. It's all related to 550. So there's loads. And then this is really pointing to Mount Moses. Oops. I'm not going to go over that. You can see how as well it's related to some of the other concepts of big concepts of Teshuvah, and going into the belly of the whale, if you like, the whole concept of descending into this physical reality, our soul descending in this physical reality in order to accomplish some sort of great rectification, some sort of great repair, to repair the damage, so that then we are able to live in Gan Eden in perfection. We won't be sinning again. We won't be committing something, an error that leads us to have to descend like this into this reality in order to correct that error. Okay, because once Moshiach ben David is here, that is letting us know that that error has been corrected, and we are elevated back up to the status. The whole of humanity is elevated up to a status where we can perceive the true reality of the name YHVH and nothing else beside him. Okay, let's go back. Right, and God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. So That's the regular, which is very, very important. That's the ordinal, which is very important. That's Ruach Elohim, or Ruach Elohim, and the Spirit of God. Comes to 1863, which is 3 times 621, 9 times 207. So that we can see it's all related to the light. But obviously we were made in a way with a good inclination and an evil inclination. It wasn't the fact that there was just the tree in the garden. We was made in a certain way that allowed us to rebel against the will of God. We was created that way. We've got to understand that. So to be made in the let us make man in our image after our likeness, we've got to understand exactly how we were formed. We were formed with 2 inclinations, one towards good, towards we were towards serving YHVH and towards conforming to his, obeying his will, and then another inclination that, oh no, we can't obey this, we've got to rebel. But it isn't even, we was created that way. We was made that way. So we've got to always bear that in mind. We ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil because we was created with an evil inclination that permitted us to be able to do that for an ultimate glorious good. Because YHVH desires us to subdue this inclination to holiness. Okay, and when we have subdued this and rectified this inclination, then we will have the vessel that is strong enough and powerful enough for us to receive the revelation that YHVH desires for us to give, because rectifying that is of what we are transforming our outer Esav, our body, our evil inclination. We're transforming it from that into shalom. We're bringing peace between body and soul, and that peace is what is in it, is the vessel through which we can receive that which YHVH desires us to receive. Okay. Now the Lord said, behold, man has become like one of us, having the ability of knowing good and evil, and now lest he stretch forth his hand and take also from the tree, that is the tree of life. So we rebelled against God, we ate from the tree of the knowledge, and then we was barred from eating from the tree of life. So that is also connected to light, but we are wanting to be restored back to this. So we can see how all these things are connected, and it's all wonderful. That 402, for example, is 2 times 201. 201 is the ordinal of the verse, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. Okay, but like I say, that light was not revealed, it was hidden. And I've gone through that loads, how it was hidden in the evil inclination, what we've just been speaking about, and it was also hidden in Amalek, doubt. And we have to battle against those 2 forces in order to reveal that hidden light. So it came to pass at the end of 2 full years, that's from Genesis 41:1. That's got an ordinal of 207 light. Okay, so this is the 2 years that Joseph was suffering in the prison for 2 errors, 2 words that he said that showed 2 errors of faith. He said, you know, like, remember me to Pharaoh to take me out of here. So he was relying on Pharaoh for his deliverance, and that was a mistake. He was trying to appease the forces of evil in order to secure his freedom. That was a mistake. His freedom and his redemption depended solely on YHVH. There's nothing else beside him. So he was 2 years in prison correcting that, and then at the end of 2 full years, when those 2 full years came to an end, he was out of there very quickly. Okay, and these are synonymous and parallel with the 2,000 years Moshiach ben Yosef has been suffering in Edomite exile, imprisoned in Rome, if you like, until the faith that is lacking in the name YHVH is corrected. Okay, so the entire of creation is in this exile at this time, and we are in a process of rectifying this lack of faith in the name YHVH, and Metatron and the angel of YHVH is running that whole show for these 2 full years that represent 2 of the days of creation, the 2 final days of creation before we enter into the wonderful 1,000 years of Shabbat, the messianic reign. Okay, so this is the Messianic era, and then we've got to get to the Messianic reign, the Shabbat. So that's 207 there. We come across this in my teachings all the time. This is related to, and Yeshua's been crucified since, apparently according to Sir Isaac Newton's astrological calculations, since AD 33. So that is 1988 years. We've got a maximum of 12 left. Okay, just to point out, this also is 8 times 171, and there we've got 171, the ordinal of the grave of Moshe, our teacher. So we know, just as Yeshua is in exile, Moshe is also in exile in a grave that we don't know where the location is. 171 is also related to a filling out of Moshe and also a filling out of Yeshua. I've put it here, look. So the filling out of Moshe here, 171. And he is opposite the unholy beast, Moshe. The Moshiach is opposite the unholy beast. For everything unholy, you've got an holy opposite, counterforce, to be able to battle against it. That's the good and the evil. So we've got an evil beast, and then we've got Moshe that comes against that, 666. Okay, 171 is connected to that. So we know it's Moshe is also in exile, suffering servant with us, with his grave. His unmarked grave, and also Yeshua. So we've got Yeshua, the 53 ordinal of Yeshua, and the 118 ordinal of that particular spelling out, where each letter is filled as it sounds, like Yud, Shin, Vav, Ayin of Yeshua. Okay, 118, add them together, 171. So we see all these wonderful connections. Right, I'm going to put all these up because I'm going to show you how that's connected. So, and it came to pass to end of 2 full years. We're going through a rectification of Chava. Chava ate the fruit. She ate the fruit from she of knowledge of good and evil. Chava is a name in exile. When she's fully redeemed and rectified, she'll be called Chaya, mother of all living. Okay, which is the level of Bina. This is the level we are trying to attain, the 1,000 lights of Bina. Moshe reached this level. That's why he had to have a veil over his face, because the 1,000 lights of Bina were shining from his face. But 1,000 is also means Moshiach. Moshiach ben David is 434 plus Moshiach ben Yossi 566 comes to 1,000. Moshe is also called the Aleph Gadol, and the big Aleph is equal to 1,000. Okay, so this 135. So there's 3 different ways of spelling out Chaya. There's this way, where the hair is filled with a hair, and that's 448, which is Moshiach ben David rectified plus David, the normal spelling of David. That comes to 448. Chaya spelled out this way, where the hair is filled with an aleph, is 444. Okay, and then we've got Chaya spelled out with it when the hair is filled with a yud, and that comes to 453. Add them all up together, it comes to 1,345. Okay, which is the concept of Moshiach, the 1,000 lights of Bina, concept of Moshiach plus Moshe, which is 345. So 1,000 plus 345. Moshe comes to 345. I've put that there. If we take these 3 spellings out of Chaya and add back the name Chaya, which comes to 23, Chet Yod He, that also comes to 1,368. So we can see that we're in this process of rectification, where Moshiach Yeshua is suffering in exile with us. Moshe is suffering in exile with us to overwhelm the forces of exile, the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination and doubt, and the forces of Erev Rav, and the forces, the Edomite forces and the Ishmaelite forces, the Klippot, the evil husks, the evil shells that dominate at this time. And so we can see that a rectified Chaya is connected to this. A rectified Chaya is what overcomes this, is the whole purpose of this 2 years of Yeshua suffering in exile, because we're all part of that rectification of Chaya. And also Chaya is the soul level of Moshiach ben David. So there's 5 levels of soul. Yeshua is at the level of the Yechida, the unique one, the highest level of revelation of the soul of Moshiach. Moshe is at the level of the Neshama, which is 2 levels below the Yechida. Moshiach ben David will come in between. So he will be, the level of Chaya when he returns, he will not be returning to suffer again and to be a sacrifice, which that was the level of Moshiach ben Yosef, at the level of Yechida. He is coming as king to rule fully rectified, and we're all a part of that. We're all a part of that revelation of Moshiach ben Yosef, and Chaya is the soul level of Moshiach ben Yosef. So there's 5 levels of soul: Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida. Okay, so Moshiach ben Yosef is the Chaya. So it's very important. This whole process of suffering is for an ultimate wonderful, wonderful end for all humanity. So that the woman who was Chaya that saw this and ended up causing the fall is also part of the whole rectification. She will be rectified back up, and so will Adam. Okay. Also, the word echad, we are waiting to get vessels of shalom so that we can fill with the echad, the oneness of Yod He Vav, the utter perfection of Yod He Vav. And that word echad, oneness, is Aleph, Daleth, Chet. And the sages say that's an acronym for Adam, Aleph, David, Daleth, Chet, Chaya. So echad is when we've got that unity, the last Adam, Moshiach ben David and Chaya together. Okay, it's all wonderful, right? So then we've got this connection to Enoch. Yeah, it's Chanoch. It's Enoch. We've got that down here. Let me just have a look where we get these numbers. So we've got the squared ordinal. So each letter according to the order in the alphabet squared. So Chet is the 8th letter, 8 squared. Nun is the 14th. 14 squared, Vav is the 6 squared, and Chaf is the 11th, so 11th squared. Right, so that comes to 417. If we add that the squared ordinal with the Mispar Gadol, because this is a Sophite letter, Chaf Sophite, it's the 11th, but it's also the 23rd, which is the 23rd letter of the alphabet is related to Chaya as well. Chaya comes to 23. Okay, so instead of 11, if we do 21 squared, it comes to a squared ordinal Mispar Gadol. Mispar Gadol means the big numbering. The big numbering when that Chaf is at the end of a letter, it changes form, so it changes order also in the alphabet, and instead of being 20, it's got a bigger number. Usually the regular for that is 20, but in Mispar Gadol numbering of Gematria, it goes up to 500 as well. So we've got a squared ordinal Mispar Gadol plus the squared ordinal, the normal way that we would account for the letter Chaf, and the way that we account for it when the letter Chaf is on the end of the word, as in Chanoch. Right, so we add those two together, 1242, which is 6 times 207. So linked to all this, 2 times 621. So there we know Chanoch is the angel of Yod He Vav, and it's also Metatron, because we've seen that Metatron, where is it? Metatron, come on, where is it? Can you not read? Metatron there, look, 207 times 214. Right, so let's get on to the next one then. Serpent, this is where I said that we've got this problem where Metatron's concerned, because sometimes he appears like as an angel of light, and then sometimes it's like an angel of darkness. Just like the rod of Elohim that was in Moshe's hand, he was a staff, but then he turned into a serpent, and Moshe fled when he was a serpent. That means the concept of Moshiach, there's Moshe is the umbrella term for the concept of Moshiach. When the rod is as a serpent, guess what? Moshiach's nowhere about. You've got to transform that back into the rod. Okay, so we've got that again. Serpent is exactly the same as Moshiach, Nachash, 358. 43 is Esav. Add them together, come to 401, very significant number. That comes up a lot. This is the first spelling out of Nachash. So each letter of Nachash, as it sounds, Nun, Chet, Shin. That comes to 1003. 884, that comes to the regular. And that's the regular for Nachash. If we add them both together, they come to 1242, which is 2 times 621, which is connected to all these concepts that we've just been speaking about, 3 times light. So within the serpent is light, okay? and that would be 6 times light, i.e. in the 6 days of creation that appear that evil dominates, that the Nachash dominates. But like I've said, that's just the way that things appear at this time. But in and amongst, hidden in all that evil of these last 6,000 years, where we've been rectifying, we've been in a process of rectification, that light is hidden, and we have to reveal it. Okay, and we have to even take these concepts that conceal and transform them into something that reveals. Like we've got to take the Nachash, which is exactly the same as Moshiach, and transform it into the light of Moshiach. Okay, and through that we see the light of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. It's all glorious. Nes Gadol Hayasham, a great miracle happened there. 513 plus 108 comes to 621. This is the words. This is associated with the dreidel, because on the dreidel there's 4 letters, and it's that Nes Gadol Haya Sham, or if you're in Israel, it's Nes Gadol Haya Po. A great miracle happened here. Okay, so for the one outside in exile, this is whilst we're in exile from the land of Israel, it comes to 3 times light, 631. So we're in a place of exile now. We're in this, a great miracle happened there, as in the land of Israel it's talking about, and this is the miracle of Hanukkah, and this is the rededication of the Holy Temple, and this is when the temple had been defiled by the Greeks and things like that, and then was finally overwhelmed by holiness, and this little pot of oil, this little vessel of oil was found, and that kept burning for 8 days, allowed the temple to be rededicated. So this is what we're in. We're wanting to go through that process of rectification out. We want to rededicate our temple so that there's no alien forces serving within, and that even can relate to our own bodies. A third temple will actually be built by Moshiach. I'm not denying that, but we are connected to that building, and it won't be accomplished until we have received. The temple won't. The temple will not rectify us as much as we in a rectified state will cause the temple to be built. Okay, so we've got to get on and do the work that we've got to do down here to reveal the hidden light, even in amongst all this exile and darkness and chaos and confusion and evil. Okay, behold, I have given 1,000 pieces of silver to your brother. So this is Sarah. She was taken by Avimelech. The Pharaoh, she was taken by Abimelech. Avram said, "Oh, pretend you're my sister," and anyway, she was taken, and then some unpleasant things happened to Abimelech and his household, so he gave 1,000 pieces of silver to Abraham. And this is the whole concept of Pidyon Nefesh. Moshiach Yeshua was sold into this Edomite slavery by his own brothers, his own disciples, Yehuda, Judas. Okay, he needs buying back. He needs redeeming back from this place. He doesn't belong to Rome. He's not a Roman. It's no more so than Joseph was not an Egyptian. He was a Hebrew. They are Hebrews. And then we've got Bar Ephraim on Mount Ephraim. This is one of the appellations of Moshiach ben Yosef. So obviously Bahar on the mount, or on mount, comes to 207. Okay. And this shall be Zot Tihyeh. This shall be, these are the laws of leprosy. So it comes to 828. And 828 is 4 times 207. And during exile, Moshiach appears like a leper. He's more afflicted, his appearance more mad and despised by people. He's got this appearance of a leprosy. We've got to transform that concealment into a revelation. And how do we do that? We'll look at the verses of the Torah regarding leprosy, and from there we'll pour forth a wonderful revelation that Yeshua is the Mashiach. Okay, the Mashiach ben Yosef. Right, and I think that is enough for today. So we can see there's loads and loads and loads more that could go on about this concept of light, but that's just where I wanted to tie into this concept of the angel of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. The angel of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh represents, it was very much connected to the light, but like I say, that light is hidden, and the angel of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Metatron, is part of that whole system that also hides that light. It reveals the light and hides the light. So there's two sides to it. There's the revelation of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, and there's the concealment of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. And the system in operation to produce that revelation and concealment is associated with Metatron, or the angel of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. And hopefully I've gone through some of them key hopefully it's linked into some major key concepts for you. A lot to think about, a lot of numbers, glorious numbers, by the way. Okay, and with that I will say shalom.